Today, I'm going to tell you the story of the 1,000-Year Door. An awfully long time ago, in a strange and far-off land known as Japan, developers at Intelligent Systems took the original Paper Mario, boosted the sound as much as they could in an editor, then plugged it into an amp and cranked it to 11. The entire dev team was launched through the walls of the studio. Out of the amp flew out Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door, a perfect sequel to the original. Many moons later, and the game still holds up. Some guy in the even stranger land of Canada begins our story of how Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door, is the perfect sequel.
The sequel is always worse than the original. It's a saying that rings true for movies, books, albums? One thing I don't think it applies to is video games. Movies have it way harder than games. It's tough to continue a story and then also build upon the theme from the original. But with games, yeah, they run into that same problem with the story. But for the gameplay, it is way easier to build upon what worked and fixed what didn't. And let's take the story of, I don't know, a Mario game. You can toss anything at the guy and it will make sense. And that's what Intelligent Systems did when making Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door. And holy shit, dude. They built upon the original. Before we jump into what makes 1,000-Year Door such a good sequel, we have to look at the gameplay loop from the original. There are two key pillars to Paper Mario's gameplay loop. It's exploration and it's RPG combat. For exploration, you go around experiencing the story and solving puzzles with Mario and his partners. Excluding Goombario, all of the partners have one ability that helps with solving puzzles. Mario has a few things that he can do, and those can be upgraded. The jump gets a ground pound and then can reach higher. The hammer is a little lamer. With each upgrade, it just gets to hit stronger blocks. The combat is a bit more complicated than the exploration, but still pretty simple. Mario has 5 menus he can pick from in battle: tactics, items, jump, hammer, and special. The jump and hammer do more damage with each upgrade and are the main damage buffs you'll get throughout the game. Special attacks are unlocked at the end of each chapter, and you get a bigger meter with each one. In the special menu, you can use the special attacks or use Mario's turn to fill up the meter a bit. Only Mario can use items, and in the tactics menu, you can swap partners, guard, or run away if you're a little bitch. The partners Mario gets along the way only have access to the attack and tactics menus. Later on in the game, you can equip an item that gives them access to the special menu, but they can only recharge the meter, they can't use any attacks. Each partner starts out with 2 moves, and as you upgrade them, they'll do more damage and eventually learn 2 more moves. Everyone gets 1 basic attack. Mario gets a basic hammer and jump attack. All other attacks that you get throughout the game require this game's version of mana, flower points. Upgrading partners is done by finding blocks while exploring and then choosing which one you want to upgrade. One of the biggest mechanics in the game, and the biggest source of its customization, is the badge system. Badges unlock different attacks and abilities for Mario. Excluding a select few, most only affect him. Whenever you level up, you choose which one of Mario's stats gets increased. It's either health points, flower points, or badge points. So it's up to the player to decide Mario's balance. So realistically, you're just going for defense, mana, and greater character customization. The magic sauce to this game's combat is the action command system. With most attacks in the game, they require you to do like a small timing-based mini-game to do more damage. With all enemy attacks, you can press A with good timing to reduce the amount of damage you take. That's roughly the gist of the original's gameplay loop. You go around the world, solving puzzles, fighting guys to complete chapters, and at the end of each one, you get a small little Peach interlude. It's a very simple turn-based RPG, and 1,000-Year Door doesn't do a lot to change the core of the gameplay loop. It's quite impressive though how TTYD looked at that gameplay loop and cranked it up so much. There are three major themes I've noticed with this game's improvements. They're either a logical evolution for the series, a greater emphasis on risk and reward mechanics, and it does not like giving out nearly as many freebies as the original. This game wants you to earn stuff. And those three improvements all work together to reward the player for being good at the game. Keep these in mind as I go over everything. First, let's look at the game's fattest improvement, the Let's look at Mario before we get to the partners. So what's changed for a little plumber boy? He still has all of the same stats: HP, FP, BP, attack and defense are hidden stats. Oh my god, did I even mention those when talking about the original? The main improvement to these stats is the new level cap. In 64, the level cap was 27, and you can level HP and FP up to 50 through increments of 5, and BP to 30 through increments of 3. 1,000-year door, it's a number that makes sense. Mario's level caps out at 99. HP and FP can be leveled up to 200, and BP caps out at 99. Already, numbers are just way bigger, which is always more fun. The biggest improvement definitely goes to BP, because you can just equip way more now. It makes the original's cap of 30 feel so small. So that's how stats differ. But how is combat improved?
Ooh, boy.
Let me tell you. First, let's look at how the specials are handled in this game. Instead of just waiting for a bar to fill up or using focus, the game now rewards you with two new mechanics. There's an audience watching the battle now, and they feed into Mario's special meter. The more in the crowd, the more it goes up. The less you have, the less you're going to get. For every attack in the game, you can time an A press, and if you get it correctly, the character will strike a pose, getting the audience hyped, and they will fill the special meter, on top of the old ways of getting it. Audience management is a massive part of this game's combat. Whenever you nail an action command, you gain audience, and whenever you fail one, you lose some. Sometimes missing a stylish can mess up the timing on your attack, causing the audience to leave. So you have to decide if it's better to gain special now, at the risk of losing audience, thus gaining less special later on. And to add another layer of the action commands in this game, we have the bingo mechanic. Because what's a Mario RPG without some weird RNG mechanic? Whenever you successfully do an attack, a slot on a slot machine is stopped. It can either be a mushroom, flower, star, a shine sprite, exclusively because it was the GameCube era, or a poison mushroom. When you get a bingo, everything heals a stat, excluding the poison mushroom, which cuts everything in half and causes the entire audience to leave. Fun fact, if Mario has 1 HP or the double pain badge on, he will die on a bingo if a poison mushroom is rolled. Depending on the situation, landing that third action command can be the key to a hype comeback, or completely ruin a run. Ending this tangent and going back to the specials, the pool of attacks we got here are way more interesting. From basically the start of the game, we have access to them instead of having to wait till the end of chapter 1. There's still 2 special moves that heal you, but now there's an action command tied to them, and because of that, they allow you to heal more from them if you're good at it. Or in the first game, the healing moves either heal too little or heal like a good bit, but take up way too much bar. May as well use an item that heals 10 and 10 instead of wasting a turn to heal 5 and 5. Having these action commands heal more than the ones from the original, if the player is good, is very rewarding and prevents these two abilities from being useless later on in the game. The existence of partners having HP in the game makes using an item instead of the specials not really a good replacement, because the specials can heal Mario's HP, the partner's HP, and FP. I am just itching to get to the changes to the party members in this game, but it's not their time yet. The healing ones have the most obvious change of actually being useful in this game, while all of the other specials follow the theme of no free handouts. All of them require player input to work. The insta-kill move actually gives EXP now, and there's only one status inflicting move I don't use instead of 2. Mastering the special that buffs Mario's stats can be extremely good. Once again, this game rewards the player for being really good. And the 3 damaging ones all work in different scenarios. By the end of the first game, I'm only using Starstorm and Chill Out. Never use Lullaby and Timeout. Refresh and Smooch become way too useless, way too quickly. And Up and Away is just way too situational, and if you're good at the game anyways, you don't really need to use it. Because the audience gives out more special meter in this game than you can get in the first game, the cost of a special move is more in line with its usefulness. I've barely covered this game's combat so far, and it already has way more to consider than the original. Defending attacks is pretty similar as it is in the first game. You time an A press to reduce damage, but now there's a second type of defense you can do. If you press B instead of A, you take no damage and parry the enemy if they make direct contact. It's called super guarding. The window on it is way smaller, and it's harder to time it just based off of the visuals alone. You gotta get a feel of the regular block before you can get the super block consistently. But if you can get it consistently, you can break this game wide open. The only downside is, if you miss, you're taking full damage. And it's like that risk and reward thing I was talking about. Going back to offense, when you upgrade Mario's hammer and jump, it does more than just increase the amount of damage, like in the original. Here, each upgrade unlocks a new attack for Mario. It's such a logical improvement, I'm surprised it wasn't in the original. You get one attack for the jump where Mario does a ground pound before landing on the enemy, and another one where he launches himself into the air that I've never been able to time in my life. The hammer, you just hold left longer and they become bigger AoEs. They're way less interesting than the jump attacks, but I can actually time the third one, so... These moves are also the abilities that Mario unlocks for exploration with these upgrades, which is about everything Mario can do in combat that's new. I know there's one big change. I can't exactly remember what it is. The partners have HP now. Let's go! I broke the lid. This opens up one simple thing, and it's honestly baffling it wasn't in the original. Back then, turn order never really mattered that much, excluding some enemies. Now, whoever attacks first will be placed in the front, and as a result, they will be hit by most attacks. So there's more to choosing who you kill first in the fight, just because an enemy can choose who he attacks, instead of just hitting the guy in the front. Mario's running low on HP, put him in the back, and focus more on the one enemy in the group that can attack him back there. And it makes sense that some enemies have to fight their way through your party members to get to Mario, considering you kind of have to do the same thing with some attacks to hit the enemies in the back. There are attacks in the first game that can hit Mario and the partner, but they're really annoying because the animation isn't different enough from regular attacks to imply that it's an AoE, and it really feels like a cheap shot. When they got hit, they were knocked out for X amount of turns, and it's just really not fun. And because they have health now, that's just not an issue in this game. One thing I can see some people finding annoying is that if a party member dies and you have a life shroom, it will automatically use it on the party member. But I kind of like it because it gives you more incentive to keep the party members alive, so you can save the life shroom for Mario. Because if Mario dies, it's game over, even if all of your party members are alive. That's just one change so far, and already how you go about a battle is completely changed. On top of that, them being able to use items or appeal to the crowd should have been in the first game. Actually straight up, it is dumb that party members can't use items in the first game. And the partners having HP and being able to switch who's in front adds a new layer to a partner using items or appealing. Need your partner to appeal so you can use a special this turn? Cool. They're low on health and might die if they're in the front. Oh, but if you super guard the attack, your partner will live. Now you have to weigh that risk to the reward. It just works. The second biggest improvement for the party members comes with their moves. To explain, I have made this chart. A lot of the action commands in the originals for the partners are very similar with each other, and even then, a lot of the moves that the partners have themselves are very similar. Bombette has 3 moves where you mash A and she explodes. In TTYD, there's less shared inputs between the partners, like 4 to 27. There are 28 moves in TTYD and 32 in the original. There's almost as many moves reused in the first game than there are moves in the entirety of the second game, leading to 14% of the partner moves in TTYD being reused and 84% in the original. Some have similar vibes in TTYD, like mash L instead of mash A, but at least that's something different. And a lot of the partners tend to have a theme with their moves. Like Vivian, you just click random buttons when they show up, and for Yoshi, you tend to click the shoulder buttons. One more thing that makes the partner moves better in this game, none of them are free. Like, all of them require some form of timing, most likely because of the stylish moves. There's also badges that now affect the partners. It's just a good bit of customization that makes them actually feel like a party member. So that's about it for the improvements to this game's combat. So let's move on to the exploration. Firing through the game's presentation quickly, because I don't want to give it its own section, and I don't know where else to put it. The camera is way more dynamic, and they took the light stage play vibe the original game had, and just actually made it a stage play with the audience. The character designs are the best in the Mario series in my opinion, and it took until Odyssey to have something come really close to this game. Partners have way more personality in their design and their characters. It's just a huge improvement that's good to see. The story and overall writing is more in line with the other Mario RPGs than Paper Mario 1 is. And Bowser is honestly at his best here. Having the Bowser interludes on top of the already existing Peach interludes is great. I honestly love those sections with Bowser so much. The mere existence of a bestiary actually makes me want to scan enemies to fill it out. Always just slapped on Peekaboo in the first game. Anyways, exploration. The hammer and jump upgrades are way more interesting here than they are in 64. If you couldn't tell, I have no idea what the to refer to the original game as, because I think I've called it like 3 different things in this video. There you just got a ground pound and a slightly higher jump. Here you get a ground pound and a way higher jump. Trust me, it's cooler. You can launch Mario onto a pipe and then climb across it, or use it to knock something off of a platform that you're under. Like in combat, the hammer upgrade isn't as cool. In the original game, you just can destroy a higher level of blocks. But in this game, you get a spin move. But you also only really get to destroy a higher level of blocks with it. It doesn't open up as many interesting situations. But you can use those moves to initiate combat. I didn't mention it when talking about the game's combat, because I didn't know if I should mention it here when talking about exploration, because it's something you do on the overworld, or like, it's, you know, it still goes into combat, so maybe I should talk about it during combat. I'm actually lying to you guys, I just remembered about it right now. You can do Mario's new spin move to initiate combat, and when you go into the fight, instead of just whacking them with the hammer normally, you actually use the spin move free of charge. And you can actually use the action commands from First Strikes in this game. No more freebies. The hammer and jump upgrades are just straight up better in this game than they were in the original, but there are movement abilities you can learn throughout the game that just opens up a completely new set of options for Mario. There are 4 movement abilities that you can get, all of which play with the game's paper theme. He can turn into a paper plane and fly for a bit. He can just go sideways and slip through slits. And later on, you can upgrade that ability, where if you roll the analog stick around, it rolls him up into a tube, and you can use that to like limbo under objects. And he can use Sushi's ability from the first game by turning into a paper boat. Giving Sushi's ability to Mario is super smart, because her ability was super context sensitive in the first game. Like, you had to step on a specific pad to use it, and it's better to give that pad to Mario since he's always on hand. The other returning partner abilities all get a logical buff. Shell Toss can now be held in place for some timing-based puzzles. The bomb is now thrown instead of placed, so you can like throw it onto a ledge, for example. And the speed ability and the flying ability kind of have been merged into one. Flurry's ability is completely new to the series and honestly leads to some pretty fun puzzles. Ms. Mouse's ability is a fun little extra, much like how you unlock her through a side quest. Moving around this game's world is way more interesting than the original, and the areas you go to are super unique for a Mario RPG. As I alluded to earlier, there's actual side content in this game. There's actual side quests you can complete from the Trouble Center, And there are more minigames in this game that play with Mario's abilities than the original game does. Hell, there's a post-game! And it has some really good challenges in it. The Pit of 100 Trials is such a good way to cap off this game's adventure, especially after playing this game's excellent final chapter. I think the main reason why Paper Mario has changed so much might be because Thousand Year Door is the perfect game based off of the foundation of the original. As someone who isn't a game developer, but has watched a lot of Game Maker's Toolkit, I don't know how you build off of this game. The most I can think of is a Paper Luigi game that follows his adventures that you can read about in this game. The game graphically holds up, controls fine, the combat is fun, and it has very little jank, if any. Look at every other GameCube RPG. They all have jank, but this game remains timeless. I think that's why people love this game so much. It's just as good as you remember it being. And there are so many moments you will always remember your first time experiencing. It's honestly a perfect game for what they set out to do. Like, there are better games out there, but few can say that they are the best that they possibly could have been. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door can. And it's because of how it perfectly builds upon the original. So am I officially a YouTuber now because I have to apologize that my neighbor started mowing his lawn? Let's be real, guys. If they made a Paper Mario that was exactly like the old ones, people would be disappointed because it won't be as good as Thousand Year Door. It's funny that I started this video saying, oh, sequels to games are way easier than sequels to movies, only to conclude that I don't think it's easy to make a sequel to this game. The only thing I think has been improved upon in later games in this series is the story and writing in Super Paper Mario. Intelligent Systems popped off way too hard when writing Super Paper Mario. I think it's because they knew they couldn't beat the gameplay of the original and just tried to beat the story of it. Do you agree? Think I'm an idiot? Comment down below. Dislike the video if you think I'm a TTYD shrill. Oh, I should have said Thousand Year Horror. Damn it, I should have thought of that earlier. And subscribe for more bad content. Follow me on other platforms if you want. Take care, guys.